Set your phasers to engage as we welcome to the bridge Cribl AI Engineering Lead, Nikhil Mungel, and Cribl AI Product Lead, Sydnee Mayers.
Good afternoon. I think it's afternoon by now. Yeah, good afternoon. Welcome. After lunch is always a tough time, but hopefully we have something exciting to share with you and you'll stay awake while we have this talk. You heard our quick intro, but I'm Sydnee Mayers. I lead all of our AI product initiatives, and I have Nikhil here with me. He leads all of our AI product initiatives from the engineering side. We're excited to share a bit about what we do here at Cribl AI, how it works, how you can bring AI to your workflows. We'll start with just a bit about what's the mindset? What do we think about when we build AI here at Cribl? What actually is it? I think that's the question we often get. What AI do you guys have? How do I use it? Where does it live? We'll talk about some of the value. We've actually had AI for quite some time. We have lots of customers who use it. And we've had some really good tidbits of how AI has actually impacted people when they use Cribl. And then I'll hand it over to Nikhil for actually probably the most juicy parts around tips and tricks, the best way to get more out of the way you use Cribl Copilot and just AI in general. So let's start with our mindset here. There we go. Now it's working with me. OK, so when we say mindset, what does that actually mean for us? We actually think about this in two pillars. And if you forget everything else, hopefully you remember this part. The first is explainability. So explainability to us means when you use AI, regardless of what type it is, you should be able to explain how it arrived at its answer, all the steps that were taken, what it did, what it didn't do. And it should be fairly easy for you to be able to have that conversation, like from me to Nikhil or from Nikhil to Jertan, as an example. That should be explainable to anyone. The second, and this goes hand in hand, is steerability. And I like to think about it like a steering wheel of a car. When I say steerability, I mean I should be able to course correct at any point in time when I'm using AI. So if I don't like the answer that it gave, if I don't like the assumptions that were made, if it did something wrong, if it did something right, I should be able to course correct and make changes at any point in time. Those two things are wrapped by something we call the human-in-the-loop framework, or you might see this abbreviated HITL. That means that you are in the driver's seat. So you are still the main star of the show. You are the main actor, actress. And Cribl Copilot, or just Cribl AI in general, is the supporting actor. It's there to provide help, provide a little comic relief, potentially. But it is there to be kind of the helper. You are still the main kind of driver in a lot of this. So for us, anytime you see a Cribl AI feature, it's built on these three things: explainability, steerability, and the human-in-the-loop framework. The other thing that's super important to note for Cribl AI in general is we build AI into our platform. So whether it's search or stream, lakehouse, edge, you name it, we don't think of AI as a separate product, a separate thing you got to go buy, a separate thing you got to go use. We want it to be integrated into all of your workflows. So the goal there is to make AI available everywhere in the platform. That's why you see that Cribl Copilot logo everywhere. It's because we want it to be native, built in, not on top, not bolted on, not something on the side. It should be fluid and easy and usable in all of your existing workflows. So what is it, right? I talked a bit about how we think about it, but what is it? What does it mean from an AI perspective, specifically at Cribl? So for us, we have a charter. And that charter includes two things I've already talked about: explainability, steerability. But the third is outcomes. Outcomes mean everything, right? If I have a goal, if I have something I'm trying to achieve, we like to think of AI as an accelerator for you to get there. So we are focusing our AI workflows and just all of the AI features that we build on outcomes. So when we think about the outcome-aligned experiences, it means I should be able to get to that workflow whether I use AI or not. The AI is just there to help me get there a little faster, a little bit more quality, a little bit more smoothly than I might be able to do just by myself. And we like to think about AI as a way that you derive additional value, get a little bit more juice for the squeeze when you use Cribl, whether that's collecting data, streaming or transforming data, storing data, or analyzing data. So this is our charter. Anytime I'm asked to build an AI feature, or Nikhil is asked to build an AI feature here at Cribl, we use this charter as our guide. So let's actually talk about what's available from an AI perspective in Cribl today. We like to put it in 3 buckets. As you can see, I like buckets. I like to arrange things. So the first bucket, all the way on the left-hand side, right-hand side for me, left-hand side for you, is what we call multi-product AI. We like to think of this as the entry point. The place that you come to do all kinds of cross-product initiatives, maybe where I go to troubleshoot, to get answers, to get to know Cribl better. This is our Copilot chat, has that little diamond icon up at the top. This is kind of the core place to go. If I don't know what other features to use, this is the one to use. It is the place where you can find all information about Cribl. It can also help you with some basic stuff too. Hygiene. Git hygiene is a good one. You can use Copilot to help you build Git commit messages, do summaries, etc. But this is the first place. If I'm just thinking capabilities and I'm trying to figure out where's the best place for me to get started, the generic Cribl Copilot is the best place to get started. The second is what we call the collection and streaming area, so edge and stream. We really focus here on helping you author things inside of Cribl, predominantly pipelines. If you haven't checked out Cribl Copilot Editor, I'll make a shameless plug here. Copilot Editor is probably our #1 feature. You saw it in the keynote earlier. This is the place where we help people kind of accelerate the way that they build pipelines and accelerate the way that they transform their data. So that could be schematizing information, that could be generic transformations, dropping information. You don't have to do that alone, right? It's not an easy job, even with Cribl, which makes it a lot better. We can take it one step further with AI. The third area, or the third bucket that we like to approach with AI is storage and analysis. So this is really focused on closing the gap. I'll personally admit here, I'm not a KQL expert. I don't even know if I'm good at KQL at all, but I try my best as I can. And I'm sure there's plenty of others here who would say, maybe KQL isn't my best language. But that shouldn't stop you from getting the information that you're looking for when you analyze. So the goal with the features in this area is to really lower that barrier to entry. So even if you're like me, not the best at KQL, I can use basic natural language, I can use other query languages, things that I know, to build queries, to build visualizations, to build notebooks, like you saw earlier. So the goal with these is really to make it as easy as possible to use Cribl. Now, I want to take just a quick pause on the things that I said. So this is everything that's there today, how I might use AI at different points throughout the Cribl landscape. The one thing I did not call out here is there is so much more to come. So much more. And I'll just give you some quick tidbits. Within Cribl Guard, we have some AI that I didn't highlight. It'll help you build rules. But soon enough, it'll help you detect when new sensitive data has entered your environment. That's a huge jump from today, where I have to go manually find all of those things. Big quantum leap to get there. When I think about search as an example, not just building notebooks, but being able to build notebooks with a chat experience. That's another arena that we're moving into. And then the third, which I want to highlight, is our Cribl Copilot today. It's awesome. Does troubleshooting, answers questions, does all kinds of things. But the one thing it doesn't do is act, right? So I can ask it a question, it'll give me information back, but that's where it kind of stops today. Great for understanding information, great for understanding questions and answers, maybe doing some basic troubleshooting. The goal is to get that to where you can take any action from Cribl Copilot. So if I want to set up a new source, set up a new destination, build a route, set up a dataset provider in search, all of those things will be available through Cribl Copilot. So it won't just be about information sharing anymore. It'll be information sharing plus action. So while we have lots of capabilities today, it's only the beginning. And I know everyone says that, but I really do mean it. It's only the beginning. We have a lot more coming. Now, let's talk about just beyond what's there, beyond how we think about AI, what's the value? Because I think that's the reality of the situation. I want to know, how is this actually going to materially help me if I use Cribl AI? So we have 3 areas. These are the 3 common ones. I hear other ones too, so this isn't to say these are exclusively the values that I get. But there's 3 big areas that I've heard customers and users in general say, this is where Cribl AI really makes a difference for me. The first is time savings. I don't know about you, but for me, I've built pipelines where it takes me weeks sometimes to build a pipeline because I did it wrong, or I tested, or the data didn't come out in the exact shape I was hoping for. And so taking those weeks of time, I mean, that's just one onboarding. What if I need to onboard more sources, more data, right? Time savings that you get with Cribl Copilot is incredible. We have people going from weeks to minutes to get pipelines created, going from spending days trying to build the right query to being able to build it in, I don't know, less than an hour, let's say. So we see lots of time savings, and it's not to say that you are just going to get that time back and nothing's going to happen. What we see is a lot of people saying, OK, great, I've done this thing, now I can move on to the next thing in Cribl. So it's helping you get more out of the time you spend in Cribl and more out of the workflows that you engage in. The second, skilling. I hear this one a lot. This is actually probably the number one that I hear. For a lot of folks, especially the folks that are new to Cribl, and I know we have some that are new in this room, it's hard to learn new things on any platform. It's hard to learn how the features work, where the buttons are, how should I think about something. So we see a lot of folks being able to bridge the gap, and I like to think about it in two ways. The first, for my folks who are great at Cribl, it makes you excellent. Right? I'm not just great anymore, I'm now excellent. I can do even more than I was able to do before. I can automate the tasks that I didn't really like or didn't care to do. And then for the folks who are new, I can actually become pretty proficient with the help of AI. So I'm not spending, I don't know how many days between 3 screens trying to figure out how to do something. I can go to Copilot and do it all on one screen. I don't need to jump around between docs and all of these places to get information. So it's very helpful to have that skilling acceleration, not just because it helps the people who are new, but it also helps the people who are already very proficient become even better. And then the third, and I think this is one that can sometimes be challenging to really weigh, but you see it, you'll know it when you see it, hygiene. You can do lots of things with Cribl. It's a fantastic Swiss Army knife. Not all of them are the same level of quality or to the same degree. And so what we see for a lot of folks, AI just helps them with basic hygiene, making sure your git commit messages are better. I definitely use default commit messages all the time. So for the folks who do that, don't do that anymore. Use AI to help you get better commit messages, come up with summaries, build better pipelines, optimize your pipelines, build better queries, build better visualizations that you can share with other people. Those are the types of things that you can improve, the quality areas you can really get from using AI. At the end of the day, though, I want to come back to the things that I said at the beginning. We still care about explainability. So for all of these values, you can explain how you arrived at that value to other people. We still care about steerability. You're very much in the driver's seat. You have the ability to control and make sure that anything that you do ends up exactly as you were hoping for. And you're still human in the loop. You're still the main star of the show. We very much want to make sure that AI doesn't replace anything. It's not there to change anything. It's really there to help you be better, to be that 10x engineer, 10x SOC analyst, 10x product manager. The goal there is not to replace you, but to make you even better. And so just kind of taking a step back, before we go into the tips and tricks, the juicy part, like I mentioned, we really want to make sure that when you think about Cribl AI, you think about it as a way to accelerate the way that you use Cribl. Not some separate product, not some other thing you got to go buy or learn. The goal with AI is to make you better, faster, stronger, more efficient when you use the platform. Now, we'll see how you get to do that, maybe with a bit more flair, with all of our tips and tricks that Nikhil will share.
Thank you, Sydnee. That was awesome. All right. Hey, everyone. My name is Nikhil Mungel, and I have the extremely fun job of leading engineering and research and development of all AI things, and I get to work with Sydnee, so that's a very nice job to be in. Today, I'm very excited to share with you a few tips and tricks on how you can get the most out of Cribl Copilot. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have 3 different sections. First up, I'm going to tell you how do you create observability pipelines using Cribl Stream, using Cribl Copilot Editor, and a couple of tricks to explore on that front. After that, we're going to move over into search and talk about how you can use Copilot to search the data and explore the data. And then finally, I'm going to wrap it up by telling you how Copilot can help you come up to speed when you have inherited an infrastructure or a Cribl deployment, and how do you kind of quickly come up to speed. All right, let's jump right in. So first up, as I said, it's about creating observability pipelines. One common challenge that I'm sure a lot of you have faced in this room is searching for sample data when you're going to start creating an observability pipeline, or you want to apply some transformations, and you have to go and hunt for real data that's representative of actual or sample data that's representative of real formats. Maybe you want to look at some Cisco ASA 5505 logs. Now you got to go to the Cisco website, or you got to find some obscure GitHub repository and pull some sample events from there. Or you can ask Copilot to generate sample events for you, which it can do pretty fast. It's instant. It's secure. It's anonymous. Obviously, it's generated by AI, so you can copy paste it on Teams or Slack or what have you. You don't have to sanitize that sample data. So how do you do that? So this is, by the way, this is Copilot Editor for those of you who haven't seen it. So it kind of looks like a cursor or any IDE, and we want this to be an IDE when you're preparing observability pipelines. So you have a conversational panel on one side, and then you have a work area in the center of the screen. And you can make edits to the work area by hand, or you can ask the chatbot to make edits to that, whatever object you have open in that window. And in this case, I'm simply asking Copilot Editor to generate some sample data as I'm building pipelines. So it's a simple prompt that you can put in, and in the sort of like the broader panel, you can see it generated 3 or 4 sample events for that particular Cisco device. This is a pretty big time saver, and this can also work locally on your Cribl, by the way. So if your cloud organization or your corporate production deployment doesn't have AI enabled, you can just download Cribl locally, fire up Copilot Editor, and kind of almost treat it like as your IDE, if you will. Sometimes you have a few events, right? You have a couple of events that came from somewhere. And in this case, Copilot can help you extend that set of events and generate a lot more events based on like a little sample. So say you have a couple of events that show a success scenario, Copilot can extrapolate that and come up with a few failure scenarios as well, and give you a more diverse set of sample events that you can then use to prepare your observability pipeline. If you're not logged into Cribl, maybe you're working on a different task, or maybe you don't have AI access enabled on Cribl, you can just go to Cribl IO and use this floating chat interface that we have for Copilot, which is on the floating right, and you can just ask it the same thing, and it will generate sample events for you, which you can just copy paste and plug them into whatever tool you want to do. You don't need to log in, and you can access this from either docs.cribl.io or just from our main cribl.io website as well, which is a pretty handy trick. Right, so then I'm going to move on to how do you explore the data, right? So you've set up your observability pipelines, you've set up Cribl Stream, you have data flowing into a destination, hopefully it's Cribl Lake, but it could be any destination, and now you're using Cribl Search to search that data. Exploring kind of like the shape and the structure of the data can sometimes be time consuming, right? I mean, whenever I'm faced with a new data set, I will fire off a few exploratory searches, look for kind of like key fields and values, and then, dive deeper. The Copilot kind of short circuits some of that process for you, and it can help you visualize your data and then also ask questions of that data pretty easily. So let's see how we do that. So if you're on the main search landing page and you hover on the title of your data set, you can simply click the Visualize button. And what that's going to do is Copilot is going to scan your data set, and it's going to prepare like a cool visual summary of that data set. I'm a really visual person, so I really appreciate just being able to glance at, oh, you're like some hotspots, right? Like in this case, we have some top status codes, we have some execution region distribution. This is a sample Vercel, it's a sample app that I put up on Vercel. And it's pumping logs into Cribl Stream, and those logs are getting into Cribl Search and Cribl Lake as well. So this is the kind of the data that we are going to explore a little bit more. So what can you do from these visualizations that you see? Obviously, you can add them to a dashboard, but you can also just click through and drill down deeper and just pop it open in like a search page and ask questions that are related to what you uncover in these insights. And I don't know about you, but I feel like there's an explosion of structured query languages, right? I mean, like we have SQL, you have KQL, which is what we use on Cribl. KQL is an open Microsoft standard, by the way. You also have SPL, you have NRQL, you have DDQL, you have Grafana Loki, right? There's so many of them. The good news is that Copilot understands all of these languages, including natural languages. So you can simply use the little prompt box that's on top of the search box, and you can ask your question directly. In this case, I'm asking it to count Vercel logs by the user's IP address, and it's doing exactly that, right? So I can express myself in English or in Spanish, right? Like if you look at the bottommost thing, or Mandarin, or what have you. Or I can also write SPL. So if you already know SPL, you can just plug it right in, and it will convert that to KQL and run your searches for you. And obviously, you can write SQL. So it takes that and it converts. It creates a summarized count by function, and it uses proxy.clientIP, which is a field that Vercel uses for rewriting the user's IP address into, because it's like a proxy layer on top. So that's pretty cool. And the way going back to what Sydnee was talking about, how steerable Copilot is, the way you do that is, or if you want to do that, you don't have to. Copilot can also infer these things automatically. But if you want it to get very prescriptive, you can kind of give it instructions by using the description field of the dataset, which is kind of a hidden trick, if you will. In this case, we have asked it to prefer this dataset when you're searching for Vercel logs. Because obviously you have lots of datasets that have Vercel logs, right? You have some that are old, some that are new, some that are indexed, some that are not, which is like the case in any real-world production system. So you can kind of just give it instructions in the same way you can really give your human coworker. It's like, hey, when you're looking for Vercel logs, prefer this dataset. And by the way, if anyone's asking about IP addresses of users, use proxy.clientIP, because it's being rewritten. And Copilot will respect that. It's pretty steerable. Cool. So those were my tips and tricks for searching and exploring your data. Next up, hot on the heels of steerability, I want to talk about how explainable Copilot is and how it can help you come up to speed quickly on stuff that you have not built by hand recently, but maybe somebody else built it and you kind of inherited that infrastructure. Or maybe it was you, like a few months ago. Like this happens to me a lot. I'll create an observability pipeline or something like that, and I'll look at it a few months down the line, and I have like no clue what's happening. Copilot can help you come up to speed pretty quickly. So on any pipeline page that you see up top, there's a little button that you can press, and it can generate an explanation for your pipeline and tell you what it's doing. In this case, it's a Cisco ASA pipeline. It's talking about the sampling ratio that the pipeline has, which is a detail that sometimes you can miss. But that's a pretty important detail, right? Only 1 of 10 events is flowing through, and it's right there in the description. Sometimes you want a longer description, or sometimes you may not even have AI enabled on your Cribl deployment. The good news is that pipelines are portable across Cribl installations. So if you're on the pipeline page, there's a little toggle up top that allows you to open the pipeline in a JSON view. Right? A pipeline is a JSON object under the hood. What you can do then is you can just copy that JSON object and you can paste it in Copilot. And imagine, this is not like the same Copilot. Maybe it's like Cribl.io, or maybe it's on a different instance that you have. So you can kind of copy paste pipelines, and you can ask it to explain the pipeline, and it will generate a much longer description for you. And you can also chat with that description, right? You can ask it questions, you can ask it to make changes and those sort of things. Better yet, you can open this pipeline in Copilot Editor and do all of those things, right? Copilot Editor is your place for opening up your observability pipelines, generating explanations, generating sample data, what have you. So that's how you come up to speed on infrastructure that you have not put together yourself. Obviously, this also works for not just pipelines, but for all knowledge objects or all objects inside of the Cribl ecosystem, right? So if you have a new route that you have created, if you can open it up in JSON, and if you can kind of copy paste that into Copilot, Copilot will explain that for you. And those are all the tips I had. I'll just leave this here for a moment. And thank you. Appreciate it.